Hey, beautiful people of 91 Asset Management. It's Aki here again, and it's been about a week since that magnificent conference that we all attended. I'm sure you're just about as nostalgic about it as I am. Now, as I promised you, I have will be sending you a number of videos just describing a number of things. And some of you will remember this basic little model that I put up about how to create loyal customers. How do you get them really delighted and excited and thrilled? And for today, I'm going to be focusing on the bottom one, which is getting the basics incredibly and totally right. You'll remember we did this little activity, the moments of truth impact analysis, okay? And I really want to encourage you to do this again in a few weeks' time, because this activity will really give you some fantastic information when you repeat it a second and a third time. I also gave you in your notes this really long-winded explanation of the kinds of things that you can look at. And for today, what I would like to do is to just really take you through these points so that you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you just write one example of a custom need for each one of these, then you've already got a whole number of things which are important. So it was based on the original ServQual research, in which they asked literally millions of customers around the world in B2B and B2C what it was that they used to determine whether they got good or bad service quality, what it was that they needed. And it came out that in just about every single industry, reliability was number one. Do we have the ability to provide what was promised dependably, accurately? Did we keep our promises over there? No surprises that it came up tops over there. But following very, very closely behind was responsiveness. And responsiveness is not only about responding to my questions and my needs and my queries, but it's also doing it with a sense of urgency. Timeliness is an important thing in this particular one. The third one surprised me a little bit, but it was something about, am I dealing with somebody who really knows what they're doing? Are they competent and capable? Do they have the knowledge and the skills to help me? And number four was accessibility, availability. Are they there when I actually need them? And of course, it doesn't have to be 24/7, 365. It's also on the website and through chats and all sorts of things. So accessibility is, to have that access to the information that I'm looking for as a broker. I was quite surprised that courtesy came up as number five. Number five. I mean, if we're talking about service, surely courtesy must play an important role. But it turns out that that's actually not true, okay? And you can understand why, because customers are saying, hey, first, keep your promises, be reliable, respond to my needs, do so with a sense of urgency, show me that respect, be competent, be accessible, and then we'll worry about how you treat me. But I want to make an important point over here. When it comes to courtesy, okay, it is one of those things that it's important. All right. All 10 of these that we're looking at are important. Some are more important than others, but it doesn't mean that you can be good at 3 or 4 of them. You have to have all of them, strong. Otherwise, you are dead before you even start. Number 6 was the ability to recognize clients. And this is much more than just, using their name, obviously, okay? This is really about recognizing who they are and their needs, and remembering a little bit of information about them, things like birthdays, but also about their business, personal details, what they like and dislike. So it's really about making them feel important. When we looked at that SCARF model, this is really giving them that status. Communication. I have a feeling that communication is probably in our industry, and particularly with the brokers, much higher on the list. It might actually be number 3 or number 4 even. But communication is really about giving feedback. In the activity, when you were giving me feedback, you actually mentioned how important it was to just, let customers know the status of their query, for example. And communication is a two-way process. It's really not only about letting them know and, responding to them in a manner which works for them through email or telephone or a message or whatever, but it's also about listening. Communication is a two-way process. And then we get to credibility. And credibility is a number of things. It's about, obviously, things like the reputation and brand that we represent, our history, but it's also about ethics and integrity over here. It's really about, do our customers value us as a company? Do they feel that this fits in very nicely with their own values? And so credibility is, yes, obviously about past performance and so on, but it's also about, the things that we are prepared to do and the things that we are prepared to not do or not be prepared to do. And then, of course, security. Now, of course, in our industry, we don't really focus too much on the physical security. In other industries, it's obviously very important. When you drop off your children at school, those of you who have children, security is probably number one on the list. Is my child safe? But in our particular case, it's not the physical security, but more the emotional security that they feel, the certainty that they feel versus the uncertainty. It's also about the intellectual security. Do we protect their data, for example, and their information? And then finally, the tangibles. And the tangibles are really the things that affect any of their five senses. Now, we're not in the restaurant business, so, smell and taste are probably less important, although there is research that shows that even in a B2B context, if we can manage those things, it makes a big difference. But the tangibles really comes through in terms of the appearance of the staff, the documentation. It comes through in terms of the appearance of our website, our logos, and so on. But I'd like you to remember one very important thing. These are not the answers to the question, what is it that our customers want? These are actually the questions. And what you need to be able to do is to, first of all, together, come up with the definitions of reliability, responsiveness, competence, accessibility, courtesy, and so on, and ask, what is it that our customers want? But don't forget to also ask them. I think it makes a tremendous difference when you include them. Reliability is not just about, for example, the SLA, all right? It's about something much deeper than that. Now, let's talk about what clients don't want. And I think in reality, there are probably four broad areas. First of all, they don't want any negative surprises. Nobody likes that, obviously. They don't like slow and lengthy processes where things just seem to go on and on forever. They don't like being ignored or discounted, that they are unimportant. And that's quite hard for us because, the reality is there's, just a handful of brokers around the country that are responsible for a huge chunk of our business, in some cases 20 to 25% of our book, okay? But at the end of the day, the rats and mice cannot feel ignored, okay? And of course, they also want access to decision makers. So this has actually been just about the longest session, and I'm going to say goodbye for now. It's gone to about 7.5 minutes. I promise you the future ones will be much shorter, and I'll see you in the next one in about 2 weeks' time. Have a brilliant time until then. Bye.